Today's debate about assisted dying often comes packaged in the way of many things these days, centered around human rights. So, do I have the right to take my own life? But you know, behind the notion of human rights is a much deeper notion of human dignity. Rights are bestowed on somebody by a law. Dignity is innate within the human person. Dignity can only be recognized or ignored, but it's not in the gift of a government or a state to grant dignity to somebody. So we've got to get beyond the simple arguments to do with human rights and think more clearly about dignity. Now, if it's innate, then it's part of the gift of life that we have. And the best way of talking about that is to see the Creator as the one who bestows dignity with the gift of life. So that means the gift of life is not mine to do what I like with. It's a gift. It's given, and it will be brought to its completion. And dignity consists of recognizing that and living accordingly. To deny that fundamental dignity and to reduce it to a right to do what I want actually belittles the very notion of human dignity. And for those who believe in God, there's a simple way of remembering this. If you ignore God, you very quickly belittle the human person. They become disposable because they have no innate dignity. They become a burden. They become, an object of pity. So when we go through the issues to do with assisted dying or assisted suicide, we've got to keep a firm grasp on the notion of dignity given to a person by a Creator, and then that's how we live. So to use the argument that this bill will enhance our human dignity in dying is a misuse, a misconstruction of what dignity actually means. I don't gain my dignity by doing what I want. I don't become more dignified if I simply demand what I believe are my rights. Dignity is something that expresses the greatness of the person, and those who love another person know that. They love them because they see their dignity. And in this question of dying, it's so important not to forget that, because so many people say it is accompanying people through death that is their greatest expression of love and their greatest recognition of the dignity of a person. A dear friend of mine died at the end of May, and here I and others were able to accompany her right through to the moment she died. And I wouldn't trade for anything the value of those last weeks and days. They weren't comfortable, but they were precious. And as it were, to foreshorten all that doesn't enhance the dignity of our relationships. If anything, it belittles them. Now, there's another point as well to be made, because when people claim the right to die, they forget that with every right goes a duty. And what I think we must be very aware of is the likelihood that if we are given the right to take our own life, that will very quickly become the duty to take our own life. And that's what we hear so often. People who are suffering say, "Oh, I'm a burden on my family." The family don't say that. The family say, "No, you're not. You never could be." But nevertheless, that seed is planted. And if the law opened up that possibility, then there would be all sorts of pressures within a person and from without to turn that right into a duty to die. And then, of course, we have another set of rights of the medical professions and nurses. They have the duty of caring for life, protecting life, nurturing life. And there, that could very easily slip down the road to become a duty to end life deliberately. Now we know that palliative care is a hugely important part, not often recognised, of this debate. And we know that skillfully used palliative care eases the burden of suffering enormously. I saw that for myself. But if there's an alternative of bringing a person's life to an end because it seemed to have become a burden, what will happen to palliative care? It will become an optional extra, unfunded, even less than is funded today. And so the options narrow more and more. And a last point, we should be careful what we wish for, because even though this bill will be framed with considerable safeguards, we know from around the world where other nations have enacted this kind of legal right to die, that it's expanded. Those safeguards slip away, and all sorts of reasons are used in other countries why a person may take up the right to die, because they're in a very profound depression, because even they're struggling with anorexia. There are all sorts of accounts which are very disturbing. And it's not surprising that people who live needing particular care are very fearful of the consequences of our Parliament enacting a bill for assisted suicide, assisted dying, or put it bluntly, assisted killing. So please do take some action and write to your MPs, engage in debate, engage with people. But please remember those things, that to ignore God belittles human beings, that the right to die can become a duty to die, and be careful what we wish for.